All right, so in this video, we're going to configure a switch and prepare it to integrate with a wireless LAN controller. In our case, we have a 3504, and in our topology, it's connected to ports 13 and 14. If we do a show CDP neighbors on our switch, we've got the 3504 and 13 and 14. It has not been configured yet, so it's got a base default configuration on it. This is the Wi-Fi Training Active Expert Lab Ops Management System, by the way. So you can access our labs with simple Chrome web browser. We've got console server, so you can console into everything. You've got full control over everything. It's a very nice environment. And I'm doing this video, I'm going to share it with YouTube, but it's also just kind of behind the scenes setup of a new ISE Lessons course. So if you guys are interested in learning ISE and wireless security, check it out. You can check that out at wifitraining.com. All right, so to configure and prepare this guy for connectivity to the controller, we want to configure an Etherchannel group. And really, the wireless LAN controller, guys, is somewhat like I hate to even say it's somewhat like a switch. In some ways, it is. Because it passes layer 2 traffic, okay, down interfaces. And on these 3504s, for example, there's 4 typical Ethernet ports. There's a couple M-gig ports, so you can do even faster connectivity. We're just using the gigabit ports here, which is fine. But basically, any load balancing or Etherchannel stuff, that's all got to be done on the switch. And you can tag management traffic going to a controller a couple different ways, which is what gets a lot of new engineers as they're learning wireless LAN controllers. Wireless LAN controllers have a lot of interfaces. There's a management interface, there's a virtual interface, there's dynamic interfaces, there is out-of-band manager interfaces, there's redundancy ports. I mean, there's a lot. But we're going to go ahead and set this up, like I said, for a 3504. In a later video, we'll do one on the new 9K switches as well. But here's what we do. We want to first, we know which ports are physically connected there, 13 and 14. So what we want to do is we're going to do interface range, and we're going to do gig 1013-14, and that's basically going to configure both of these guys at the same time. Now, before you ever do this, you want to make sure that there's no configuration on those ports. So if we do show run and gig 1013, you see there is no configuration. Change that to 14, there is no configuration. So we're good. We've still got our range command that is configured for 13 and 14. So the first thing is we want to give it a description. So we're going to say this is, we'll see, 3504. Okay, and then we're going to do channel group. And we're going to make this guy be a part of Etherchannel 10. And a channel group 10 mode on. Okay, so that Etherchannel bundle did not exist. It exists now, but it did not exist to start that. Now that that's done, I can do all the configurations under this range command, and it'll apply it to the Etherchannel. Or I can go under the Etherchannel and configure both ports as well. So what, and it's really one of those things, like if you're already under this, if you're already under this configuration, then why not just do it here, right? So we're going to do Switchport mode trunk. Okay, I want to make sure that this controller is always available. So we're going to do I haven't configured some other basic things. Okay, so like logging synchronous. But anyway, let's go ahead and do this. So I want to make sure this comes up as fast as possible if there's ever a failure. So we're going to do spanning tree port fast trunk. And it's fine on the controller. You want to make sure this interface comes up as quick as possible. So we're doing that. Now, this is what I meant earlier by saying there's a couple different ways we can tag the manager interface of our controller. We've got those 2 ports configured, but everything we configure that's layer 3 for manager on a controller is basically an SVI. It's kind of like a switched SVI. So those ports are just ports, and the SVI is going to be within the controller. So what I can do is I can tag it here, do switchport trunk native VLAN and put it on the manager VLAN. Or I can tag whenever I set up and I go through the controller setup, that controller configuration, I can tag it there. So either way. For this example, we're just going to leave it open. I'm going to tag the controller, do it during the controller setup to tag in the correct management interface. So that's taken care of. So we can do show int p10, do show run int p10, po10. There we go. So you see all that's really configured there is, well, I take it back. We should put a description under the port channel. I could have swore if you did it under the interface, it would do it there too. But let's do show run int gig 1013. You know what? I'm going to take this as a learning moment because I could have sworn if I did the configuration underneath the ports, it would apply there as well to that new logical interface, but maybe not. I do know if we apply it to the logical interface, it will write it to the interfaces there. So let's go ahead and do int p010, and let's go ahead and do our description here. I just want to see something. We're going to do, we'll see 35.4, and I'm just going to do ... So now if we do show run int show run int p010, and do show run int gig 1013. Holy heck. Well, I was wrong. Apparently, configurations that you do under the port channel do not propagate to the specific interface. There can be differences. I'm wondering if that's just on the description, though. That's probably just on the description. That's probably right. Well, that's something good to know for sure. So hopefully you guys see what I'm saying. I applied 3 stars under the port channel, and underneath the interface, it was not, the description wasn't changed under that interface. And I guess that makes sense in a way because you might have interfaces that are saying, hey, this is part of some controller config, and then label the port channel some other way. But it just seems weird to me because if I'm configuring a port channel, I want the exact same config applied to both interfaces simultaneously. That's the thing, right? So, all right. Well, this is now in a good spot, and it's a trunk. We're not preventing any VLANs from being accessed by that particular trunk. It's just kind of a standard interface. So let's go ahead and configure the controller on this. All right. So I've got our controller pulled up here. So, and this is a default config, right? So we've got to start off by giving it a name. We're just going to call it Wilsey. Administrative name, we're going to say admin, administrative password, and put that in. Okay, and then service interface, do we want to do, and what is all in uppercase is the default. So the service interface, like I said, there's many different ports on our controllers. This is not the one we're going to be managing the controller from, okay? It's another interface for kind of quote unquote, if there's a problem with our Etherchannel group, for example, we can manage the box, that kind of thing. So we're just going to leave that on DHP for now. Do we want to enable lag? Absolutely. So we're going to say yes on this one. And then that means that that's going to work great with our Etherchannel configuration below. We didn't do load balancing or anything on that yet, but it's a basic configuration. Anyway, manager IP address on this guy, we're doing 10.1.10, and let me pull up my notes on that. It's .30. So netmask, it's class C, default routers 10.1.10.1. And then it says, hey, the management interface VLAN. This is what I was saying earlier. We could have left it untagged and tagged it on the switch side, but we wanted to tag it here. So we're going to do 10 is the manager interface on the switch. If you look at the switch over here, 10 is our manager interface. So we're going to tag it 10. And then management interface port number. Well, since we just enabled lag, I'm not even sure why that came up, because it shouldn't have. We just enabled lag. So we're going to say just management interface port number is number 1. The DHP server address is 10.1. That's not the right lab. 10.1.10.15. And then enable HA. We do not have an H. Well, we do have HA in there, but we're not doing it for this program. So we're going to say no. And then virtual gateway IP address. Guys, forever, and I even taught it this way, we use 1.1.1.1. It's a very simple IP address. Use it as, kind of just a test IP. But Cloudflare does not like it, and it will cause issues with DNS if you use Cloudflare DNS. Nowadays, we need to use some of those other non-routable addresses. So 192.0.2.1 is the current recommendation. 192.0 anything, basically. But I'm pretty much teaching it 192.0.2.1 for the virtual gateway IP address. This is that proxy address, so that if our controller hands out an IP address to a guest or contractor, you would see that as your DHP server address. Also for web redirection and some other things, that basically is the reason we have that virtual IP address. So we're going to go ahead and choose OK. And for our mobility RF group name, we're just going to say group 1. Network SSID. I've never liked that we had to configure an SSID in the little setup script we do here with the wireless LAN controllers, the airspace wireless LAN controllers, but you got to do it. So we're just going to call this delete me. Okay, DHP bridging mode, no. Allow static IP addresses, we're going to leave that as yes. Configure a radius server now, we're going to say no, because we want to set that up and then go through it. Country code, US. Guys, if you get the country code wrong here, your APs won't register. True story. Do you want to enable these networks? And we're going to say no across the board. Auto RF, yes, but no on the A and B network. Okay, Ntp Server now, we want to configure yes, so just enter. And then 10.1.10.15 is our Ntp Server address, and we're going to do 86.400 is our polling interval. IPv6 parameters, we're going to do no, and configuration is correct. Now, if you messed up on any of this, you hit the minus, and it will take you back 1 space. So you don't have to reboot or anything crazy. I've seen a lot of people going, oh, I got to reboot, I messed up on it. Just hit the minus, and it'll take you back once. So, but the system is correct, and we're going to choose yes. It will reboot, and we'll be good to go. These new 3504 controllers, and really it's just the version of code that we're running. It's got an auto provisioning SSID to make it really easy to use a mobile app to set up your controller. I'm not sure that that's ever really helped anybody, to be honest. You guys let me know in the comments as you see this, if you've ever used the auto provisioning SSID to do anything. It was kind of put there to say, oh, you could use this app and set up your wireless network in a few minutes, but smaller shops typically, I mean, I just haven't seen any use for that. Just 20 years and working with it, but yeah, just me. All right, guys. So to do the rest of the configuration, we'll see you in another video. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you there.